And I have to introduce you to Chuck Williams, because he's been with me for 50 years. And we're getting old together. Are we working on? Okay. So I introduced Chuck just now, and I just want to, we don't have a big audience, and we don't need big audiences because we have millions of people who are listening. And what I need to do is take the simplicities, because to make the point from those who never have seen this program and heard myself, I want you to know, those of you listening, that 95% of all your diseases, all of your symptoms of whatever diseases, mental, emotional, physical, cancer, smoking, drug addiction, everything starts with one thing. And if you can understand that one thing, a miracle happens. You've heard cause and effect. What causes cause? And you can stop me anytime you want to. But I want to make it simple. And I like to be metaphysical. Metaphysical is necessary for humans, but not for monkeys. Metaphysical we can understand because we're metaphysical people. We have a corporeal framework. In other words, we're like animals in some way. We got a body, and we have a heart, and God knows what. But there's one thing that will kill you. One thing. And it's called emotion. Now, this is not an easy thing to swallow, because everybody on earth, with very, very few people you'll ever find that will agree with me, but if you want to get rid of any of your problems, you cannot be wrapped up into emotion. Emotion runs between two people. I get to you, I get upset, or I'm pushy, I'm a bully, I'm an appeaser. All that's emotion. Forces, energy. One person influencing another person, the other person fighting back, etc., etc. It never stops. There's a Christian saying, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The doing must not have any emotion. Because if you are emotion and you want to be kind to a person, then you have to extend a certain human energy, not godless, not godly.
People call it being kind.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of energy.
That's
Children right away recognize they're confused by it.
You got it. Children, when they come into the world, if they have a chance, meaning they have a halfway decent parent, they'll get to the point where the mother says, how does this kid run around doing all these things and doesn't eat enough? But he's not running on the energies. There may be some emotions, but mostly they're almost like Jesus. They have an energy field that has no stopping. And the mother always wonders, how does he do all these things? He doesn't hardly eat. He's playing and messing with things and learning things, and he doesn't have anything, I'm worried about him. That's because the energy that's in that child is more spiritual. It has a little emotion with it because he's born from woman and subject to the woman and the noise and the speech and the corrections, and no father, because the fathers themselves are subject to women. They're looking for love from women and not from God. Isn't that correct? It's all upside down.
It's fitting because today's Father's Day. And what I see
yes.
Father's love as, Father's love is standing there being a shining, guiding light and letting you make your mistakes, but giving you warning and then reinforcing when you've made a mistake and you see it, say, well, you did that wrong. That's the Father's love. The mother's love is something else. The mother really wants that Father's love too.
Exactly.
We don't have much of that Father's love left. No. It's gone. We used to go watch movies where the Father's love was this quiet, centered individual who had courage and character and who did what he had to do and then stood back and lived his life. That was the courage of a father.
It's rare.
And it's rare today. People think it's stupid to be that way today.
It's almost absolutely gone.
Yes.
We have to have, and I know that I'm Jewish, but I'm Christian Jewish. It means I'm the extension of him, and he's the extension of his Father in heaven. And he says so. But people put themselves in a difficult situation because I just have to jump into this and we'll go further from it because it's very important. Fathers are essential, but fathers must not look to their wives for love. Ladies and gentlemen, do not look to your wife for love. All you're doing is mimicking Paradise Lost of, what's his first name?
Paradise.
What's the first man?
Adam?
Adam, yeah. Forgive me, I'm 90, I'm 90 years old, yes. Almost 90. But Adam gave his troth, loyalty, by disobeying God. And women, I can't say it, but the woman looks to the woman for love. In other words, she said, I didn't die, therefore...
If Adam had made his mistake, had disobeyed God, and God said, you have disobeyed me, and Adam, instead of saying, well, my wife told me to do it, if he had said, you're right, life would be different. Instead, he looked to his wife for the excuse and the blame, and that was his mistake. And if he could admit his mistake, he will begin...
I'm getting out of here because you're too good. Where did you find this guy?
It's not a matter of time. It's a matter of being willing to go to the place no one wants to go to. And I didn't know I was willing, but somehow, step by step, I went to this place we never want to go to. And because I was willing to be led there, it changed me. I don't have to remember what I've learned.
No, it's correct. There's no need for memory because God will always give you the words. You know the words. You can't help but learn the words. The kids learn the words. And within 2 or 3 years, they could speak better than you can. But the thing is, these words have to come from a divine order. But that man born of woman tends to be subject to the woman. The man born of woman. First of all, it was woman came out of man. That was the order. But when he gave in, And when she says, look, I didn't die, and he looked at it and he fell, then the succeeding generations were upside down. And so man born of woman is subject to the woman from the day he's born, because the first thing he sees is woman and the love of the woman, which is not love. That's not love. It's a kind of love, see, but it isn't the real love. The real love doesn't have any emotion in it.
The real love creates in the person receiving it an emptiness that makes them reach for God instead of man or whoever is doing the love. It's a remoteness to that love that makes you reach inside instead of outside.
But that takes a long time, because men born of woman tend to be subject to the woman, see, and does not know that there's another kind of love, but he is subject to it, cause and effect through the generations. It's always the same. And therefore, men do not have the strength and the kind of spirit that the family needs to live forever. We are meant to live forever, but we don't. Because the knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil are both dead wrong. In other words, if you think you are good and if you think you are helping people, you may help them to a certain degree, but not enough to bring them back to paradise lost, where a new kind of energy other than emotion. There's a special kind of in other words, there's a realm. When I'm sitting here talking to you, when I'm walking down the street, it's always eternal now. Does anybody know what I'm trying to say? Because most of you are running thoughts around your mind and trying to figure this thing and that. And you have conditioned reflex responses, sort of a hypnotic state. Your parents upset you, and then other people can do the same thing to you, what your parents done. You set them in motion. You could add more. And I said in the beginning, you must be very careful with your children, or if you can find the realization that your parents do not know what they are. They said, honor your mother and father. It doesn't matter how rotten they are, because they don't understand what they're doing, whether they're too sweet or which is too sweet, which is another emotion, and makes you feel better than you deserve to feel. You become addicted to it, especially when you become a man looking for a woman. It's always the same thing. All you do is looking through the woman, and the woman only wants you to be relieved from the forces that impale her to this very day. And so I wonder if anybody understands that. You do. You want a man that has an authority Jesus-like, and that Jesus-like quality isn't the same emotions that we human beings, corporeal beings. Jesus wasn't a corporeal being. He says something like, don't think of me as good. My Father within me, he talks through me. I'm not sure if I've got the correct words, but that's what it means. The Father is in me, and I am in you. And when that's a chain of command. But evil, cruelty does the same thing, doing unto others as was done to you. Not doing unto others as we should have them do to them. You understand that? I didn't say that correctly, but you get the point. See? But this new this new new way of life comes from some other realm. And the realm can be expressed in scientific language, where science meets the metaphysical personality of God, which you can never see. In other words, that in the beginning there has to be a beginning, a beginner. There has to be. In the beginning there was a void, and the void was infinite. In the beginning there was the void, and the void was absolutely nothing. Not one tiny little piece of heat. Nothing. And it would go on forever. But you see, the beauty of our forefathers, even though they weren't scientists, they knew that in the beginning there was the void, and they wrote it down. And recently, I'll come back to how it affects us in a minute, if you don't mind.
I'll have some words to say about that, so get to, when you're
Yes,
ready.
you can interrupt me anytime you want to. But I want to, because I have discovered this, and I've written it into my thesis. These scientists today saying, we don't know what gravity is, but we know that it is steady. It's dependent. We can chart courses with it, and it's valuable, but we don't know what it is. We have no idea. They have no idea what it is. They think of gravity as the mother of all other aspects. But the point is, it is the beginning, which is the void and darkness on the face of the deep, and I'm going to be spiritual. Can you imagine gravity having being in a room and it stops at that door? It's not gravity anymore. Gravity is infinite. It has to continue to flow forever, like blowing up a balloon. You can blow it if you just can blow a balloon up, but if it was a balloon but how can I say it?
Can I add one thing?
Yes, please do.
People get confused when you say the word gravity because we have a limited knowledge of physics, and we think gravity, well, that's when you drop something, it falls. But you're saying that the drop something and falls is simply an evidence of what gravity is, because gravity is the energy of everything.
Everything.
It's the flow of that energy that causes one of the symptoms, which is that things drop on Earth. But gravity is a physical evidence we see every day, we work with every day, but it's the evidence of this greater flow of energy. And one other thing you said that really struck me, because we hear these discussions of physics and we think, oh, he's talking physics, I can tune out now. He's talking spiritual, because if God came, whatever God is, put energy into the void, it means that his energy flows where there is nothing and makes life move. If we don't let there be emptiness in ourself, if we don't fill that void in ourself with other things like emotional energy, if we let that void be there and feel the pain of the void, he will feel it. That's what he does. He fills the void.
That's much better than what I said.
It's a deeper level. It's not an intellectual thing. You cannot conceive of, you can talk about this intellectually. It goes beyond the intellect. If you're willing to go into that realm beyond the intellect and let the void be there, feel the pain of the emptiness instead of fill it, he will begin to fill you. And the first thing you'll know is where you're wrong.
I think I better die now. Yeah. And you can carry on.
You can't die
that's what it is. I used to wonder,
I'm
why is he going
I'm
over
getting
this
jealous.
physics over and over?
Shut up,
Because
you're
there's
getting
meaning.
jealous.
But there's meaning in this. And if you set your intellect aside and simply listen to the words and open a part of your nature, especially if you're in the room, but even if you're not, you open this other part you don't even know you're opening.
The void is
The
important.
wisdom that comes from you will somehow go in, and there'll be some little thing you say that pricks something in the person listening 1,000 miles away, and they will be changed. And you won't know it. There's something that comes through you out there.
It's through my emptiness.
It's through your emptiness.
Through my emptiness.
And only into their emptiness if they let it be.
But
if they fill it,
they don't,
there's nothing there.
the trouble is they don't have an emptiness. But this emptiness is not nothing.
Yeah.
It's something from another realm. Because when you look, the scientists say today, they're beginning to say, we are beginning to suspect that gravity is not the beginning, to put it in good terms. The fundamental, they call it. But they don't know what it is. But you only have to go to the Bible. It says, in the beginning there was a void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. Nothing. But you have to have nothing to start with. You have to have an infinite nothing to continue, correct? Because gravity, then you have energy flowing from let there be light. But where did that come from? Where did it come from? There's got to be something beyond that. We can't imagine it. But we also need to have that in ourselves to receive it, but in a special way. He builds the universe, he creates us, but there's a special kind of emptiness.
We are to be the portal of his image.
Right. Yeah.
In a special way.
And that's what I understand, and that's what you understand. And you understand it better than me.
You led me to this.
I know.
Your perseverance and something in me that kept going.
I like it. But see, so Adam, we go back to him, when he made the excuse and he got thrown out of the garden, he got thrown into the world, and he's disconnected from his creator and subject to the woman. And the woman is subject to the dark side of the force, and she is to this day. And she doesn't really understand it, because when she's born to mother, and she becomes the extension of mother. And then you have a male child as the extension of mother also. And when he grows up, they're all carrying what Eve did. In other words, there's the dark side of us, but many of us want to do the right thing. We come into the world with intuition, but intuition is overcome by when you come into the culture comes into you. And the culture comes into you beginning with your parents, usually. So if you're Jewish, you're going to be Jewish. You're going to be Christian. You're going to be Christian, or whatever it is. And then, but the point is, you're not supposed to be any of those.
My parents both rebelled against the culture. They both ran away from home when they were in their teens. They both tried to break the pattern of their cultures. And all their life, they tried to be not like their parents, but the craziness was in them. And they couldn't see that even though they tried, it sneaked through and hurt their kids.
But they get E for effort.
Yes.
And it was said of the Jewish people that there's the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Pharisees believed there was a life after death, or so to speak. And the Sadducees hated them. They were just Jewish people, but they didn't have any religion. You see, and then there was a war between those two. But it was said, if you believe the Jewish people said, a person is coming, a Messiah. They missed him. I have to say that, missed him, but it was counted for righteousness if they thought he was coming and believed that, which is beautiful. So there is...
That's a sign of hope, that there is a God and he cares for us.
And you have that too. We also wonder what Jesus is. but he is the representative. There had to be someone who demonstrated what fulfillment is. And even though he was on the cross, he put himself there and said, please don't let me do this, but thy will be done, not my will be done. He made a point. He made a point that even though he had a pseudo-corporeal nature, there was something about him that was, the sperm was not an ordinary man. It was God himself. And that makes the difference. And so
It broke the lineage.
it broke it. So immediately, something comes through the void. Just like the void began with, the universe began with, in the beginning there was a void, and then comes the singularity, which is what the scientists talk about. The singularity is the infinitely hot. Now, can you believe infinitely hot? It's hard to believe. It's always there, radiating. It's radiating something, but something has to come from somewhere. There's something beyond infinite nothing, correct? But infinite nothing is just is what the scientists are looking for, the other fundamental. You cannot have a universe without it. You have no room. There has to be infinite room. And that's what we see.
The scientists, and I don't know much about physics, but as I understand it, scientists say our universe is always expanding. Everything is moving.
And temperature is the same.
And so that there's somehow we're moving out into the nothing to fill the nothing, and yet there's energy always flowing. Every atom has a nucleus and an electron, and the electron circulates around the atom for hundreds of thousands of millions of years. Where does that energy come from? It doesn't dissipate.
It doesn't. It's always the same.
It's always the same. It's always in balance.
Atom is
Why
the same.
is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Well, it's because somehow there's energy flowing through everything.
If you have a balloon and you're limited, you can only blow up the balloon. But this balloon is growing and growing, and they know that by the temperature is the same. And if the temperature is the same while it's expanding, energy is coming in. And it will always be that way. It's not going to collapse like the stupid scientists say. See? And so the whole idea of emptiness in ourselves, we have inherited what Adam did. And Eve could not help herself. She needed correction. Put the fruit down. He didn't. And so everything is back to front. Adam came first, and out of him came her. And out of her eventually came children. There's a divine order, correct? But now it's upside down. Because you have done this thing, so you shall be bonded to your wife and you become one flesh. That's backwards, part of the expression.
And really, talking about this, which is a philosophical point, but a very real point, it's not about blame. It's about this is how it works. If I want to figure out how to fix something, the first thing I have to know is, well, how does it work? And then I see it's not working right, and I say, well, maybe it's something wrong here, and I adjust it, and all of a sudden it works. Everybody's looking, when you say these words, they take it as a blame, and they shut up, they put up their shields.
Correct.
Which is a mistake. You need to see yourself putting the shields up. Because there's something else going to penetrate through those words, and if the shield isn't there, it will touch something in you, and you will begin to change.
But what the danger is, we're still subject to what she was when she said, I didn't die. And women inherit that.
Yes.
And the children inherit.
And that becomes pride.
Yes, that's right. But, yes. Come and sit here.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're speaking about this, especially on Father's Day. You've been a father figure for me for the past 30 years, believe it or not. And I was an absolute wreck as a child. and there was something in me that was able to hear what you had to say. And grateful isn't even the word. It's beyond gratitude that you were there and you were a voice in the wilderness. And because of that, I was
Well, that was him. He's been 50 years. He was only 18, right?
wow, wow. You know, there are people that, so many people that are listening now that are being benefited. And I was able to come across a man that was raised by a father who was a decent man. My husband had a decent father who spent time with him, and when he'd be out with his friends, he wouldn't go beyond that and get drunk and do things of that nature because he didn't want to disappoint his father. And I had no idea what that was like. I wasn't raised that
Well,
way.
I had a good father. And if you don't mind,
Please.
we can go on that for a few minutes. He could speak 11 languages, and he could do anything. And he was confident. And he was confident with me and my brother. But when he died, it was like a canopy over me when I was young. And I was about 10, when he passed away. I don't remember loving him. But what he gave me when I look back on it was freedom to experiment, to do things for myself, to unfold like a flower. Not to, and so it took me, it made me, if you excuse the expression, hostile to people teaching me. If I want to know something, I will ask for it. But I'm not going to have it shoved down my throat, religion or anything else. And because of that discovery, one discovers, and the next thing I discover from the thing I discovered. And so I've learned a tremendous amount. But when I try to find where it is, I can't find it, but except when we discuss these things, you're pulling it out of me. I don't have, what I'm speaking about here is, I give the credit to what my father was. I didn't know I loved him, but there's no feeling in the love. You see, the thing is, he didn't cause me to have a feeling. He was just there protecting me from culture.
You know, and I think because you had that experience with your father, it helped you become the man that you are, and you were able to have this platform to speak to so many others. So I'm grateful for your father.
Well,
I'm
I
very
tell you
grateful.
what, it took a little further. May I take it just a little further? So I didn't know I loved him, but he just let me play with his toys. But they weren't toys. This is the war, and he was playing a role in it without him. He had a uniform and everything else, and he had Morse code and all kinds of things to make sure that we are safe. I played with all these different things, and I made really weird things, but I won't go into that. But I'm still thinking about how I discovered something. If anybody wants to know what that is, it's something, it's very important. But the important part of this is metaphysical. If you love the Father, which I didn't know I loved him, you see, there's no feeling. He doesn't want me to give me a feeling and tell me how wonderful I am. He doesn't have to stop me from doing anything. All he did was watch me and enjoyed it. And he trusted me. Canopy. No emotion. No emotion. There was an emotion that tried to get me later on, if you'll just remind me, because I tend to sometimes forget what I will also want to run into. But when he died, something strange happened. I remember walking in the rain, with a heart, a heart that's missing him. And I used to walk behind a person raining in England. It rains a lot. And when the person walks like my father, I go up to him as to see if that's him. You know how you don't want him to believe that he's dead. But of course, he was. But then all of a sudden, something said to me, that's not your father. Where did that come from? But it didn't speak language. It made me aware. Where did it come from, that thought? But it was a good thought. It's not an ordinary thought. He says, your father loved me. See, basically. In other words, when I love the Father you can see, you inherit the Father you cannot see. And there's no emotion. All of a sudden, I'm free. I've been free ever since. I know what freedom is, but freedom isn't being taught. Religion, you pick one. They're all no damn good. Excuse the expression, but they're all programming you. They're telling you what they think, and there's thousands of ways of thinking differently. And these different ways of thinking are all what's called culture. But you've got a cannibal culture, you've got a Hitler's culture, you've got also all kinds of cultures in the world that are just really evil. And then you have America, which is half evil, and the other people are trying. And if we don't get our act together, we're finished. Because the bad guys, they like their bad guys. They live off our dying. Don't you see?
Now that brings to mind, Roy, I have my 15-year-old son here, and I have 2 other children, and we had a long discussion on the way up here about that. So as a child, we do go to church, but we're not going to church for the glory, hallelujah, and any of that. We're going so that we can be around decent families, like-minded individuals. So
if that's the reason,
that's the purpose.
That's good.
I'm very grateful that my husband and I
That's good.
are showing that to our children. Now, my son learned about Noah's Ark, all these, the milk, the bread.
It's interesting.
Beautiful. Now he's into the meat. And we were having a discussion about this very thing, wherein it's hard for me to explain it. I don't know if
you go ahead. You keep going.
He was sharing with me that he doesn't know how his faith is supposed to be now, that he doesn't believe that it's going to be the route that he's been seeing at church with the glory, hallelujah, and whatnot. And when he said that to
the
me,
church is going to ruin you.
I was very relieved when he
Excuse
told
me
me
saying
this.
so. The church and the minister. You need to discover this for yourself. I have written, it's taken me 35 years to write 50, 60 pages. And it all begins with what I said in the beginning. In the beginning, I got to look at that again. Because in the beginning, there was the void and darkness was on the face of the deep. All right, that's interesting, but you don't question it. The person who wrote that understood it. He is a scientist. He got it dead right. Absolutely. And so I've realized that if I wanted to be educated, which I do, but the education that I'm referring to is the longing to understand it and not being told it and go to and get a degree for learning this and learning that and just remembering this and remembering that, and they don't know what the hell they're doing, but they can build things on it, but it all becomes material. There's no spiritual in it. I look at everything the blade of grass and the science. But the beginning of science is in the beginning. There was the void and darkness. But my friend here, Chuck, he got it. There's got to be the emptiness in us. Spiritually speaking, it's the same kind of thing. Not the same thing, not the same thing. And we need to allow it to come through us. So, but the thing is, you don't get educated right away. You suddenly begin to realize emotions, but it takes the emotion away. Actually, I find myself, where did the emotion goes? But I never had much of an emotion anyway. I remember the first time I always bring it up because it's important. I was 8 or 9 years old, and I had a cousin that I was playing with, and he said something really rude and crude, and it caused me to have a big knot. You've heard me say that before. But the way I handled it, because of my upbringing, or my upbringing, the freedom to be that way, I'm always questioning. Oh, that's interesting. That hurts. I wonder what that is. I don't know. I let it go. I've been letting things go ever since.
And you know, I can't tell you how, again, grateful I am that you bring up that story. It's helped me.
Important.
It's extremely important. I know that I can't do it as quick as you do. I aspire to do that someday.
Well, I began that. I had, that was a series of things that culminated in that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that all along. Building, machinery, equipment. I was 8 years old. I met, you know, those bagatelle, I don't know what you call them, but you pull the string, or the spring,
Okay.
and the ball goes round and round, and the lights go on.
Ping pong? Or
Yeah, I made that when I was 8 years old.
Oh, yes.
I made that out of cardboard.
Nice.
And then I found, I wish I could remember the word, but it multiplies the energy. A big, not a condenser.
Generator?
Was not a generator. It turns AC in DC. Transformer. There's a big one. And this is what I did. I didn't know what that was, but intuitively, I wired it. And I cut the wire and put a buzzer that you have in the doorway in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So it was make and break. You know, the energy was a make and break. And I put it in, I cut the wire, put it, and put the ends to it, so and then I tied it to a battery. I had a spark that big. I've never seen that before. It ran through the transformer. It was huge, a spark as big as that. I've asked people to try to do that. They haven't been able to do it. And I've always wondered. And wonder leads to wondering. And so I ended my thesis. I think it's 100 pages, more than 50. But the last thing I wrote about, when I heard that the scientists said they believe that underneath gravity, they thought that gravity was the mother of all the others, the other three. But they're beginning to suspect that there's another fundamental. Gravity is fundamental. It's supposed to be the mother of all the others. But it isn't. It's the void. is flowing into the void, and it creates gravity. But gravity only has one string. But if it's designed to curve, it will become a ball of wool. 3 dimensions, see, of the fabric of space. So
It makes sense, even if one doesn't know a lot about physics. It does make sense.
but it's just that little thing.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at the Bible, I said, this man knows what he's talking about. This man has joined physics from my point of view now, because physics is way ahead. But people are scientists, most of them are mechanical people. They learn how to fix things and build things, but they have no idea of the origin. They cannot explain what we call now the singularity, which was in the beginning of the Bible. In the beginning there was the void, but then comes the infinitely hot. Where did the infinitely hot come from? If there's a void, can the void make heat? No. There's got to be some place beyond it. We can't imagine that. But guess what? It's in me. I have that void, and it's filled as a human being. I want to make sure I'm not going to be bragging, but it's filled me and drove out any emotion that was there. But looking back on it, I've never had an emotion, but I can't explain it. But I didn't have an emotion, because if I don't have an emotion, you can't hurt me. But I can hurt you, because if you try to upset me, it takes energy for a person to hurt you and to do unto you what was done unto them. You can break that space. You can break it by what I just said. So the energy I have is a counter force which I do not understand, but it carries with it what God wants. There's an energy I can't explain. In other words, you can't upset me. And if you try to upset me, you get upset because you can't upset me. And instead of that person doing it to me, I'm doing nothing. But it looks like nothing, but it's something. I don't know what it is, but it stops it dead. It neutralizes the cruel person. He doesn't know what to do. And that is an important thing for all of you to answer. If you have emotion, all I have to do to you is upset you and put you into a hypnotic state. The hypnotic state is not called a hypnotic state. It's culture that's taken hold of you. And so therefore, what is in you, now you express it as if it was yours, and it isn't.
It's clear as a bell.
Is that clear?
Sense.
Does anybody understand that? It's not hard.
No.
It's not, but I still can't explain it.
No, but
it's magic.
Yeah.
I call it magic. I do magic tricks. See that finger? Oh, I do that, but that's magic. But it's not real magic.
Now, Roy, everything you said prior about the woman and you know, her not putting the fruit down, and I know that about me. It's a curse with my gender, and I know that.
You have a willfulness that's
Yes.
got to be stopped.
I know that. And so now my son is coming into his own in the culture that we have.
You leave the culture alone.
As a woman, as a mother, my husband
Don't talk to him. Let him unfold from himself. Let him discover his own mistakes.
My husband said he's going to make his mistakes. You're not going to be able
Leave
to
him
stop
alone.
him. We have to just be
No,
there.
no, get your fangs out of him.
And they are in him.
Yeah.
I think they're in him.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, I know I'm right, because they're all the same.
I'm sorry. I really am sorry.
So when you get married, one day you're going to get married, I suppose. You're better off if you're not, but never mind.
It's true.
I can't imagine Jesus being married, because he's complete. We complete ourselves to the women. And all we need to be is put down the fruit. And don't talk to me that way. See? And leave the kids alone. But there's a certain way of being angry. Let me make the point. If I say, put that down, did you hear any anger in it?
No.
But the point is, if the child is playing with something or doing something, needs to go to bed, Dad, can I spend another 10 minutes up this? All right, 10 minutes. All right. And so, well, your 10 minutes is up. No, just one more minute. Okay. But then he's going to push his father. No. This is what you say. Get to bed. Did you hear what I said? Now get to bed. They like that. They like the what word am I looking for?
Authority.
Authority. The authority is, it's inexplicable. You can't explain it, but you can tell the difference between an angry father,
Right.
the same noise, but there's something in the noise of a good father that it hasn't got an emotion in it, which is a killer. Emotion kills. And the minute you start becoming emotional, you start having conflict. And then you try to fix it. And it gets worse. You cannot save yourself. Nobody can. But you've got drugs. You've got chemistry. You've got medicine. And they give you the medicine to take away the symptom, but they don't know what the cause is. They think the illness is the illness all by itself. It's not. It never will be. It comes right down to being resentful towards your parents. Honor your loved mother and father, and so that the days may be long. Then you say to yourself, my mother and father were really wicked, and they really were. But it says very clearly, it says that they can't help themselves. They're born in sin. When I say when you're born, you tend to be born into a culture. If you're born in Borneo, you'll be a cannibal. And everybody else is a cannibal. And if you try to speak up and say, but cannibalism is not good, we're not supposed to eat people, they'll kill you and eat you. So in America, we have the same kind of thing going on. But at least you have a chance. On my radio program, listen, I'm a dangerous guy. I'm a really dangerous guy to the dark side of the person. And there's lots of people in the dark side, especially on the left. Excuse me, but they're all crazy. On the right, they're not good enough. They're appeasers. Christians are appeasers. And then also war comes because you've been an appeaser. Then you appease the bullies. And instead of curing the problem, which you think of as love, you go to church and if you're appeaser, you're loving. But you're really appeaser. An appeaser encourages bullies. And then we have a war over and over again. But if you don't have that energy and you stand your ground, don't move. Don't you try to mess with our country. But it has to begin with dealing with people. You've got to learn to think this way. God, Jesus, of myself, I can do nothing. The Father in me, He makes me speak. That's it. And so, because of Him, our lives can be restored. That's all. That's all that's required. He puts it in Jesus because the seed of man will always make the same mistake. And so He has a different seed, and the seed is magical. Do not call me good. Only the Father is good. And the Father is in me, and I am in thee, to His followers. And that's how it. So when you see that person who has the extension of some kind of energy that is curative, that's powerful, that cannot be overcome, the enemy is destroyed. He does not know how to deal with it. I'm almost 90. Nobody dare touch me. They try, but something stops them, and it isn't me.
And I've seen this over the years. I've seen this for the past 30 years of my life, that this is in you. I do see it now. It's not you.
It's God in Jesus, and Jesus in me, but the energy is a gift.
It is.
It never stops.
Right.
What I love is to help people to the day I die.
Yeah.
I just want to help you.
Do you know, it was such a relief, Roy?
What?
Such a huge relief for me to know that it wasn't my parents' fault.
It isn't.
It was.
They never found it.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And it's not getting them off the hook or anything. I mean, but it's just, it really wasn't their fault. And you helped me to see that. And it made the burden a little lighter in life.
It should take away. It actually should take. In other words, of myself, I can do nothing. The Father within me, He doth it. It says it. So Jesus couldn't fix Himself unless He loved His Father. He is the extension of the Father. And we are the extension of Him. And the flow of love never stops, like the flow of gravity never stops.
It's just like when you mentioned to my son that my fangs are in him. I know they are. And I can't do anything about it.
Say that again.
That my fangs are in my son.
The fangs, yes.
Yes, and I know they are. I see that they are. But I can't do anything about it.
Well, does your young son, handsome-looking fellow, does he want to sit here and say something or not? You like what I'm saying? Yes. I knew you would. You can still love your mother. And if your father is missing something, then your mother, you don't want, in other words, you're a man. And how old are you?
Almost 15.
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 53.
He's smarter than you.
Very smart.
Men are smarter than women. And the only thing that makes a woman smart is the love of the man that has that spirit that I speak of. And I suggest to the audience that if you have a husband and he dies, and assuming he's a typical husband that dies anyway, and it doesn't any good because he's too busy looking for love from the woman. It's called sex. And it's only a pleasure and a feeling, and that's emotion. And it's a lie. Emotions lie.
I agree.
And it's called love. It's really called lust. It's really lust. See, I would suggest that if your husband dies and you have a 5-year-old, I suggest that you talk to the 5-year-old. Should we sell the house? Whatever the subject is. And you will see coming from him like what you've never seen before. I'm sorry about that, ladies, but ladies think they're smart. You got the women on Fox.
Because our
Blah, 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 blah. It's all interesting. They may be technically correct,
Sure.
but they're machines.
Well, we speak out of emotions and think out of emotions. It's not rational. I mean, there may be some, I don't really know.
Yeah, but talking about intellect.
Yeah.
Intellect is sucking up information, and then you have different takes on it, and then you argue with each other. But if you could find, by being still, and we can talk about that if you want to, but whatever still is, it leaves an emptiness. If you could look, if a car is moving backwards and it needs to go forwards, it has to stop to go forwards, does it not? Mm-hmm. Well, there's got to be a place where you stop. And the meditation I teach is simply, especially the meditation that has no spiritual words on it. If you follow those instructions, the consciousness that's tied to the brain and subject to the brain, which the brain is subject to the pressures of life, like an animal. You have a brain, and the brain it dies. In other words, it comes when your brain will die. It won't last forever. But if you have an intuition, that is the brain of the soul that's in the body, and the brain will love the truth that's coming through it, because if you don't have that magical quality which gives you the power to stop the cruelty of pressure, your life is over.
That's the best explanation I've ever heard of meditation.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's the best.
Listen. What was it?
Chuck just said that was the most eloquent explanation of meditation that he has heard. And he's known you a long time.
Yes, because the energy is coming from within you and educating the words and putting them together for you. In a way, you as I speak, if I have a problem, and there's lots of different problems, all I have to see is what the woman thinks, the man thinks is the sickness. But somehow the words come. But it's not just the words, it's who's saying the words. Just like who's going to be the angry father and the good father with the loud voice. There's something magical in the sound of it. And you can hear it. But it also affects that aspect of the person who appreciates the father. And all he has to do is appreciate the father that has the right sound, and the kids are free. I remember a story it's called Black and White. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
It was made not long ago and given to me by one of my sons, who is in a relationship with this famous person. And he made a radio, not a radio, can't find the word.
A movie?
Movie, yeah. A movie. I'm 90 years old, forgive me. And so, in the movie, there's a girl, she's 13, but she loves her not her father, she's black, and the grandfather is white, but they love each other. Of course, the white girl is married to a black gentleman who is not around, but she loves Grandpa. And then in the scene, which is brilliant, I just love the whole movie just for that. He says, but there's a nice relationship with the child. They love each other. And then the grandfather says, you got to go clean your teeth and go to bed. And the little girl says, Grandpa, you're not saying it strong enough. You need to say, go clean your teeth and go to bed. He said, okay, go clean your teeth and go to bed. He said, that's better. It makes the point.
I see that. So there was a time when I called you on the radio and I started telling you how I resented my mother and my father, and you weren't yelling, you were raising your voice very strongly. Knock it off.
That's me all over.
Just knock it off. And
what did you knock off?
It shocked me. I think that it was a shock to my system.
A good shock.
A jolt, like that energy that you created. I hung up the phone and I started crying. And I thought, he's absolutely right. I think anybody else could have told me, you're ridiculous, you're silly, you need to forgive, etc. But I think coming from you with that voice and that energy, it did help me realize that I've got to knock this off.
There's a kind of energy that makes the same squeak, but it has a different something in it.
Exactly.
And you, as you get older, watch your emotions. As you realize emotions are for animals, and it kills them. It will kill you. And all the illnesses, 95%. There's also snake bite, so I can't say about that. But every sickness starts with reaction. When you have a reaction, you cannot worship two masters. Roy Masters or somebody else's master, see? But you cannot allow yourself to react. To react is to belong.
Makes sense.
It does, doesn't it? It overtakes you, and it puts inside you be in conflict with your human. And the brain now is operating from the outside when it should be operating from the inside, from the flow of love of God.
Exquisite.
Simple.
It is.
You don't have to be a preacher.
No.
I'm not a preacher. I'm just a tough guy.
That tells people to knock it off.
Knock it off. And I've done a lot of knocking offs. With this.
So, back to motherhood and fatherhood, I would have to say that where I'm at, my job is to step back and observe.
You do have a husband.
He's wonderful. Not perfect, but a wonderful man.
Good.
And he speaks to my son that way.
Yes.
Like you say. And
but the subject in a family
yes.
is the father, the mother, the son. That's it. It can't be otherwise, except when the father is dead.
Right.
Okay, or no father. It's good to listen to the male, because men, that kind of male, if you ask from it, give it life in a child, 5 years old. What do you think of this? Should we sell the house? whatever it is you want to talk to this, talk to him like he is old enough to understand the problem. That 5-year-old can actually teach you a lot because he's a man. That's important. And women are subject to men. And so when there's no father in the house and the father is dead, listen, the child may be broken by then, but generally speaking, my mother, actually, the problem in my household was I had a brother that's 3 years and 9 months, but my father was dead. And so my mother looked to me, and she was okay. She died from what she died from because she loved my father, and she never got over it. But she would talk to me about things. And my brother got jealous, and he died from jealousy. He died from jealousy.
Women in that generation, I think, would.
But he was just dressed. If I looking at the picture, he's dressed as a woman, a little girl. That's what destroyed him.
Women in this generation don't tend to do that. I think they're very wanting to be very independent and not go to the male or talk to their sons and daughters about.
Who is that you're saying?
Women of this generation.
Women in this generation have been politically ahead of men.
Right.
And men are sort of sperm donors. That's all.
It's true. Yes. It's causing such havoc on our society.
But it's the
Plan.
it's the Russian, can't think of it right now.
Okay. Mind control.
No, it's mind control, but there's a word for it.
Marxism.
Marxism, yeah. Marxism is in America for 10 generations, I know. In other words, it takes them a long time to build media, and the media lies. And that's what I talk about. We need to take them off and throw them back to Russia, because Russia is behind all that for the last 60, 70, 80 years. It takes to overcome the country. In schools, universities, and all the lies, that's what you're dealing with.
I see what the youth are doing today because I have a son in that age, and I hear what it's simply awful what kids are doing. And now he's coming up to a point where he's getting into the point of thinking about the future, what he's going to do, where he's going to become, and what type of family he can see himself.
He'll play with it.
Okay.
He'll play with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I played with it,
Sure.
and it went to something else and played with that, and played with this and played with that, and eventually I'm playing with physics.
Okay. It has to happen. Yeah.
But then I appreciated spiritualness, the spiritual nature of things.
I'm glad you did.
But one thing leads to another.
Okay. Okay.
I'm an educated person,
Right.
but I don't feel educated. I always thought I was in a boarding school, and guess what I thought of the teachers? The Walking Dead. I could see they didn't know what they're talking about. I was fourth in my class. There's only 4 in the class. But I'm not stupid.
No.
I know more about psychiatry than... I have to tell you a little story. We have to have a little fun here.
I love it.
I'm not sure if I can remember everything that was said, but when I first came to Los Angeles in 1960, and having practiced hypnosis, because I thought that was something, because I was very good at it in the military, I could make I didn't have to clean my rifle or my shoes. I get everybody doing everything for me. Yeah. Even the sergeant. He couldn't get me. What was I going to tell you now?
About the conditioning of
No, it's a story. Because if I go on radio, I remember being on radio many times, and the subject is emotion. Many times. And some of them are really dangerous. So in this particular one, simple, the subject was emotion. And he says, emotion makes you human. I said, no, it makes you stupid. And he says, so we're on the radio, and we have the person that's moderator. Thank you very much. Thank you. I lose words sometimes. And so the guest is an important person, knows all about these things, psychiatry and things. I says, anger will kill you, and you will not win this discussion. He says, I said, you have anger? He says, yes, I have anger. Well, so is it you get stronger when you get more angry? He says, yes. I said, can you get angry? Can you get more angry, you stupid idiot? Well, he reacted. I said, do you have enough anger now? Well, you're still an idiot. Just talking to him. And when I saw he's angry enough, I said, you can't speak now. He sat there, couldn't speak. Then I had another one. I worked in a place where, it's a nice place, and it was owned by...
Gambles.
Huh?
Gambles.
No. It was where we had the Institute of Hypnosis.
That was in L.A.?
No, that was
Houston, Texas.
Houston.
Oh, Houston.
Yeah. And so the son of the owner, he would have coffee down the end of the hall and a few sandwiches. And he didn't like me. And so he says, you're a fraud. I said, okay. I said, what's the most important thing to you in your life? He said, I'm going to take my exam for this or that, whatever it was. I forget what it was. I said, you're an idiot to having told me that. Now you're going to fail. He says, I'm not going to fail. I said, you're an idiot. I know what I'm telling. You think I'm stupid? You're going to find out how stupid you really are. He got so angry. Monday came. He thought he was going to win. He lost, you see. 6 months later, there was a knock on the door. The guy is about 6'3". He shrunk. I don't know, he was his size. He says, take this thing off of me. I said, just take back what you said, and you'll be fine. In other words, what I learned is that when you react, you're actually giving yourself to that person. Simple. All I have to do is to overcome them with anger, mostly anger, or pretending to I'll give you another example. Washington. I can just remember it was Washington, a big TV station. Lots of people. And this is Roy Masters. He deals with hypnosis, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to see what he can do. And so there are several other people in that. And there's a lady sitting there who is a songstress, a nice young lady. But I caught her eye. And she's a little fat, a little overweight. I said, I'm going to show you. They didn't believe it. They thought I was a charlatan. I said, but I caught her eye, and I could see she was stuck on me just a little bit. I walked straight over to her. I said, you can lose some weight. You'll be very pretty if you just lose some weight. And therefore, but that little sort of pseudo-kindness, I said, now you can't get out of that chair. And she couldn't. In other words, I control her. And Obama controlled all of you. Bass backwards. Excuse the expression. He got us all. Hitler did the same thing with anger. You can do it with flattery and do it with anger. And you could control that person. Easy. And so, you are all broken. Everybody listening to me are all broken. You cannot achieve anything, and if you achieve it, you have conflict. Because the more you achieve it, the further away you are from God's purpose. It's all about you. And therefore there's an emptiness, a wrong kind of emptiness. Something's missing inside you that you have to get from the world around you. Get upset, get more excited, get more angry.
You know, you had been saying that for many years, and it wasn't until recently that it absolutely started seeping in and making sense. And you would say sometimes, just look at people like they're a piece of furniture. And I love that example. And
It's walking, talking furniture.
right.
And you can see what it is.
And I think it's amazing. I love that example. Like they're a couch, and so sometimes I physically will see it just they're a couch. I haven't got to that point yet where you're saying, but I see.
But you don't want to play with it.
No,
See,
no.
these days, all my knowledge about hypnosis, that was valuable.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't have to clean my rifle. I told you all about that.
Sure.
I had a lot of fun.
I'm sure.
But the thing is, it isn't funny.
No.
I can remember sitting in a bar, but it's not called a bar. What do you call it? In England.
Pub?
Pub. Yeah, it's different from what we have here. It's more
Social.
people meet social, yes. And so another soldier sitting having beer. I don't drink. He says, how do you do all that? He says, can you hypnotize me? I says, no, you're already hypnotized. He said, what do you mean? I said, you're already hypnotized. Strong force. You're already hypnotized. What do you mean by that? I said, you're already hypnotized. I don't have to do it. How heavy is that glass of beer you have? It's half full. You can't pick that up. Just the authority of that. He couldn't pick up the glass of beer. He is shocked. He's in a hypnotic state. I just opted in. The work has been done.
All the conditioning.
But I married my wife. I only knew 2 weeks. And we sat in the car. The first evening, it was a hotel, nice hotel, very nice place. And she sat with me. And she said, I have a headache. I said, you want me to fix it for you? Click. 2 or 3 minutes later, she says, oh, my headache's gone. I said, your father's name is this. Your brother's been our soldiers, and I can't remember where they were. I got everything. She said, "How did you know that?" "You told me." But she was asleep. But she wasn't asleep. All I did was take over what was done to her. I'm trying to fix it to this day. Because you can hypnotize people, but you can't make them do right things. That's voluntary. And if you don't understand voluntary meaning, love God. Or not love, that's a bad word. You cannot love God. There's nobody on earth that can love God. Actually, it's a disgrace to say you love God. Who the hell you think you are? Loving God. He loves you. You can't love him. He loves you. And all he wants you to do is do unto others. What was I giving you that freedom? So to talk about God and say you love God is a freaking lie. Hello, all of you out there. A freaking lie. How dare you say, I love God? It's a lie. You can't love God. He loves you. And you can go to hell if you don't understand that. You understand that? You have no power to say, you have no right to say, I love God. He loves you, but he can also kill you. He can bring you to disaster. And any person, so when you have a person, forgive me for saying this, I don't want to sound it, but I have him in me. And you better not mess with me, because you're not messing with me. And so if you listen to what I'm saying and you get upset, goodbye. Nice knowing you.
But Roy, I do have to say that I am grateful that I didn't say goodbye.
It's understandable.
It's a very understandable. You have been.
But it needs the shock. They need the shock.
It's true. Just like knock it off. The same thing. It is. It is. And it needs to be that jolt. And you've been that surrogate father for me. And I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Very sweet lady. You have a nice mother. You're a lucky young man.
Thank you.
Well, and what's wrong with you? I appreciate you coming back.
Yeah.
Your thoughts.
Sitting there listening, I had thoughts, but they're all gone now, so I'm sorry.
That's all right. We're both crazy.
But I was, there's something about, I don't know, there's a chemistry in life. And you have to, as a human being, you have to realize there's more to things than what you see. And you don't figure them out. You just know you don't see it. You don't understand, and you know there's more, and that's the wonder.
It's okay not to understand.
It's just wondering, because that wondering, which you had as a child and lost, they took it out of you at school.
Yeah, but it's still there.
It's there.
It's mingled up all the noise.
Because this is that wondering is a sense his resonance of his spirit in you, because your wondering will lead you to where he wants to take you.
But you see, it's very hard to find a person like myself.
Yes.
And not many of us.
No.
And so the beauty of it is that when you're born into culture, culture gets in you. So now, what is culture that it gets inside you? Are you guilty? No. So no matter if you're a murderer, if it ends up being a murderer, you can be forgiven.
Yes.
See that?
And there's a part of our nature, I saw this recently, in the last 6 years, there's a part of our nature that doesn't want to buy the idea that it needs to be forgiven. It wants to save itself.
But that's the dark side.
It's the dark side.
Making them feel very important.
See, all right, God, I'll fix myself before I come to you. That's what we have going on, and all the moral people have this in them, big time.
Yeah, but they're not moral enough.
Not moral at all.
It's all shoved down, and it's all just, who was it saying, Shakespeare, all the world's a stage, and many people,
You are
actors.
players in it, yes.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yes, they look nice, and they are nice. It's better than me nice than not nice.
Right. But there's deeper things in life, and you have to find this wandering way, and you have to be able to wonder where your brain can't go.
Now, if everybody in America could understand what I just said, everything will turn around. In other words, the good people on the right, but there's also good people on the left, because they've had a bad education and all the rest of it. And so there's always that, but the right is closer to it, and may be difficult. I don't know which is the best. Are those who have been messed up and on the left and going crazy, or the right who are self-righteous? But the self-righteous ones actually will believe in God in a certain way and fight for it. See, if push comes to shove, they will be there. And they're called Christians mostly, the Americans. And that's good, but there's something better. They really need to deeply understand it, and the enemy will be scared to death. There wouldn't be a shot fired. That's the magic.
And we're standing on the precipice.
Behold, the seat.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about how we get controlled, because I noticed when you were talking, I have this issue. There's a lady at work that I sort of sympathize with, and when I have a problem, I go to her for her to sympathize with
You
me.
go to the wrong person.
This is what happens. She'll tell me that she's like having some little spat with our boss, and I know that inevitably I will be in a fight with the boss in the next day or so. It's like I pick up what she says. It comes right into my head, and then I find something to start a fight with my boss. She'll say something to me now, and I'll say to self, oh my God, I'm going to be in a fight with my boss in the next.
Well, if she can do it, I could do it.
I understand. I see that. We don't realize how suggestible we are until it becomes.
Close your eyes.
Okay.
You want to get rid of that?
Yeah.
Well, then you follow it. I want you to keep your eyes closed. You can put the microphone down. I want you to look at your eyes, eyeball. I want you to look up.
I don't know if my eyes are looking.
No, it's all right. I want you to follow with your eyeballs right here. Follow this upwards. Here it goes. Just follow it upwards with your eyes closed. Now, when you're doing it properly, you can't open your eyes. Try to open your eyes. It's hard. Is it hard to open your eyes?
Not really, but it's a little hard to follow your finger.
Just try it again. Just be aware of that. Now, follow my hand. See, you feel the heat? Follow the heat. And so your head follows it. Moving it away. And your head falls forward. Let the head fall forward. Let it get heavy. Fall forward.
I'm really stubborn. I'm hearing your voice, and there's the stubborn part about me saying, don't listen, don't listen.
That's all right. That's a good thing. Don't listen.
Okay.
That's good. It makes you stronger.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say
If you can deal with me and not respond, you're better. The average person would have fallen asleep just like that. Okay?
Thank you.
You're not as weak as you think.
Thank you.
And you like me.
I do like you very much.
Okay. He can't touch you anymore. That person can't touch you. You get rid of him. You get rid of him and come to me. You just tell me what your problem is, I'll help you.
Thank you.
Are we finished?
Been a long time.
Has it really been? How
Yeah.
long? How long has it been?
Almost 2 hours.
Does that feel like 2 hours? All right. Thank you.
Did you want to mention the project we were working
Oh,
on?
yes. Would you like to say that?
I'll say a few words.
I'm not very good at that.
Yell at me if I say too much. I won't try to say too much.
Please.
But I want to tell the people in the audience, both here and out there, that we're beginning a project. We've already taken the first steps, and the idea is to put Roy's life, his recollections, and what he's done in a professionally made movie. We have a director, we have writers, we have a whole crew lined up.
And they come from India.
They're coming from India. They're going to come out in maybe 6 weeks. So go, if you're interested in being part of this project, either as somebody who might contribute or just to want to get updates on what's going on, or if you want to give money for this project especially, there's a place you can go at fhu.com/film, F-I-L-M. Go there. You'll see what you can do. We're going to improve
Where
that
is
site.
that? Well, I've not seen that myself.
Well, we'll have to take you to a computer. fhu.com/film.
Oh, it's up there.
It's up there. And we're actually going to do some improvement to that to give you a few more options. Right now, it's just getting your input and your email. But it's one way to help in this project. As it develops, you'll learn more about it. But it's about time that what Roy has done, both his life and his message, which are totally integrated, be documented in a good way so that it won't be distorted that quickly. And we hope we've got a really professional crew to do a nice job and an honorable job. So that's really beneficial.
They came to us.
They came to us.
I
so-
just want to say one thing, and then we're finished. His name is Sanjay. We call him, it's his friend. He is an Indian, from India. But he worked for me 37 years ago. He never forgot it. And then he had one divorce, and then he came back to his wife, and everything's copacetic. But he never forgot it. He was 20 years old, and he made 17 movies, and now he offered to do this. He thinks it's very important. That's what I appreciate. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's Post Office Box 1000. I can put that one if you want to. Post Office Box 1000, Grants Pass. Grants Pass to you. And then the phone number is 800-877-3227. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Have a good life.
Cheers.
Cheers.